You see it absolutely everywhere, right? Oils, creams, gummies, all of them promising to relieve pain. CBD has exploded into this massive wellness trend, but you have to wonder, does the science actually back up the hype? Well, we're going to dive into one of the most rigorous studies yet to find out. You know, the search for better pain relief isn't just a casual thing. It's urgent. We're talking about 250 million people. That's 250 million people around the world who are suffering from osteoarthritis. It's this awful, degenerative joint disease, and the knee often gets hit the hardest, leading to just relentless chronic pain. And here's the problem. Our current toolkit for fighting that pain is, well, pretty limited. The standard treatments, things like non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs, you know them as NSAIDs, and even powerful opioids, they often just don't cut it. And worse, they come with a whole list of serious long-term side effects. So you can see why scientists are scrambling to find better, safer alternatives.
Which, of course, brings us to cannabis. I mean, it's famous for its anti-inflammatory and pain-relieving properties, so it's become this major contender in the search for better pain management. But how exactly is it supposed to work?
Okay, so get this. Our bodies have this incredible built-in network for managing pain and inflammation. It's called the endocannabinoid system. The easiest way to think about it is like a series of locks all over your body. These are called CB1 and CB2 receptors. Well, the compounds from the cannabis plant, they act like keys that can fit into those locks, activating them to help get pain under control. So we're not inventing something new here. We're just tapping into a system that our body already has. But the theory gets even cooler. It's not just about one single compound, like CBD. A lot of researchers believe that a full-spectrum oil, one that has all the different natural compounds from the plant, works way better. They call this the entourage effect. And it's this idea that all these molecules work better as a team than any single one could ever do on its own. So, that's the theory. A really promising one, right? But theories, well, they have to be tested in the real world. So a team of researchers designed a trial to find out once and for all if a full-spectrum, CBD-rich oil could actually make a difference for people with that awful osteoarthritis knee pain.
And they did not cut any corners. The CANOA trial was designed to be the absolute gold standard of clinical research. It was a double-blind, randomized, placebo-controlled study. That might sound like a mouthful, but it's basically the best method we have to eliminate any bias and find out if a treatment truly, genuinely works.
This flowchart here shows us exactly how they set it all up. The researchers started with 61 patients who were all diagnosed with knee osteoarthritis. After some really careful screening, they ended up with 45 people who were then randomly split into one of two groups for a 60-day trial.
So here's how it worked. Group 1 got 45 milligrams of the CBD-rich cannabis oil every day. The other group got a placebo, an oil that looked and tasted identical, but was just MCT oil with no active cannabis compounds at all. And the double-blind part is absolutely critical. This means that neither the patients nor the researchers knew who was getting the real deal until the very end. This is so important for making sure people's expectations don't mess with the results. So, everyone was on the edge of their seats, right? Waiting to see if the cannabis group would report this huge drop in pain. But what the researchers found was not what anyone expected. Okay, let's look at the data. This first graph tracks pain using something called a WOMAC score. It's a standard tool for measuring arthritis pain. And as you can see, over the 60 days, both lines are trending downwards. That means that on average, patients in both groups said they were in less pain. So far, so good, right? And it wasn't a fluke. The researchers checked this with another measurement, the visual analog scale, which you can see here in graph C. And what do you know? We see the exact same pattern. Both groups reported feeling significantly better over the 2-month trial. But here's the twist. Look really closely at those lines. The green line, that's the cannabis group. The black line is the placebo group. And it doesn't matter if you're looking at pain or stiffness or function, those lines are almost perfectly on top of each other. The improvement was virtually identical in both groups. So when the researchers ran all the numbers, the conclusion was just inescapable. There was no statistically significant difference in pain relief between the people taking the CBD-rich oil and the people taking the fake oil.
The study's own conclusion really puts it bluntly. They wrote, "The CBD-rich oil did not demonstrate superiority over placebo in alleviating pain. It also didn't help with any of the other things they were measuring, like depression, sleep quality, or just general quality of life."
So this just begs a massive question, right? If the science behind the whole endocannabinoid system and that entourage effect is so promising. Why didn't this gold standard trial show any benefit at all?
Well, the researchers themselves offered a few possible explanations, and they really boil down to three main ideas: the incredible power of the placebo effect, the dosage of CBD they used, and maybe most importantly, the fact that there was basically no THC.
First up, let's talk about the placebo effect. Pain is such a complex thing, it has physical parts and emotional parts. And the simple act of being in a study, feeling like you're being cared for, having a routine, expecting to feel better, that alone can create a very real reduction in pain. Both groups felt this, and it might have just washed out any small effect the oil itself might have had.
But the second factor is probably the big one. Remember that entourage effect we talked about? Well, the oil they used in this study had THC levels that were so low they were practically non-existent. And while THC is the part that gives you a high, it's also a seriously powerful pain reliever that directly activates those CB1 and CB2 receptors. Without it, that entourage was likely missing its star player.
So where does all of this leave us? What's the big takeaway from the CANOA trial? The results are actually two-sided, which is pretty interesting.
Okay, on the one hand, when it comes to efficacy, or how well it worked, this specific formula of CBD-rich oil was no better than a placebo for knee pain, that's clear. But on the other hand, from a safety perspective, the treatment was extremely well tolerated. Nobody reported any serious side effects, which confirms that CBD is pretty safe at this dose.
It's really important to see this study not as the final, definitive answer, but as one crucial piece of a much bigger puzzle. Yeah, this specific oil didn't work, but the trial gives us these super valuable clues about what might work. It helps scientists sharpen their questions for the next round of research.
And that leads us to the final and most crucial question. This study strongly suggests that a CBD-dominant oil with almost zero THC isn't the magic bullet for osteoarthritis pain. So, what is? Future studies are probably going to need to explore totally different combinations of cannabinoids, different ratios, and almost certainly they'll have to find a way to strategically bring THC back into the mix to see if we can finally unlock the true therapeutic potential of this amazing, complex plant.